In Destiny 2, Titans are known to be the tank type class who just runs into a room without a thought in their head and bashes everything. Well, in today's video, I'm actually going to change that narrative with this incredibly fun Solar Titan build that allows you to become the healer instead. The exotic this build utilizes is the Phoenix Cradle. Phoenix Cradle's perk reads as follows. Beacons of Empowerment. Soul Invictus lasts twice as long. Allies who pass through your sunspot are granted Soul Invictus and Solar Restoration. While this build isn't game-breaking or meta-changing or anything like that, I've had a ton of fun using it and I wanted to share it with you guys. So the gameplay loop with this build is going to be you constantly healing your allies with either your healing nade, your Lumina shots, or your sunspots, allowing you to have a ton of healing for all of your teammates at all times. And since we are using Lumina as well, you will be able to give your teammates a 35% damage buff on top of the healing. Before we get into the build here, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more Destiny 2 content. I am extremely grateful for each and every one of you stopping by the video, and now, without further ado, let's get into the build. Starting off here in the subclass, for our super, we're going to be using the Hammer of Soul, which will allow us to create sunspots wherever we throw our hammers. So we can throw our hammer at our fire team's feet to allow them to gain the healing from our sunspots thanks to Phoenix Cradle. Then we can go about throwing our hammers for the remainder of the super. The barricade you choose here is going to be up to you. So if you want to shield your teammates more, run the Towering Barricade. Or if you want to give them more reload, stability, and range, use the Rally Barricade. For the melee ability, you're going to want to run the Throwing Hammer, so you can create the sunspots after defeating targets, as well as creating solar wells with Melee Wellmaker. And then for the grenade here, we're obviously going to be running the Healing Nade. For our aspects, we're going to be running Roaring Flames and Soul Invictus. Roaring Flames allows us to gain a damage boost to our solar abilities, and Soul Invictus is going to pair with our exotic Phoenix Cradle to give ourselves as well as our allies healing and ability regen from the sunspots we create with the Throwing Hammer and our super. We do also have our super drain slower inside these sunspots. For the fragments on this build, we have the Ember of Tempering to allow our solar weapon final blows to give us and our allies regeneration for a short period of time. This stacks up to 3 times. The second fragment we have will be the Ember of Solace, which increases the duration of Radiant and Restoration. Third, we have the Ember of Benevolence. When we apply Restoration, Cure, or Radiant to allies, it grants increased regen to grenade, melee, and class ability for a short duration, which is about 5 seconds. Lastly, we have Ember of Torches, which grants us and nearby allies radiant when you hit an enemy with a powered melee attack, and since we have our Throwing Hammer, that will be a lot. So with this build alone, you have so much versatility for applying healing and radiant to our allies, making us the ultimate support player that your fire team will love to have around. When it comes to the weapons and armor mods in our build here, I have a few recommendations. First, for the weapons, Lumina is the one I recommend the most here, as we can not only apply healing with the noble rounds, but a 35% damage boost on top of that. This 35% damage boost from Lumina does not stack with Radiant or Well of Radiance, but it will, however, stack with any debuff like a Hunter Tether, for example, and it also stacks with Font of Might. So if your fire team is running Font of Might builds and you have a Tether, you can crank out some serious DPS. Some other weapons I would recommend would be something that can get you kills fast, that is also solar. So things like the Explosive Personality Waveframe Grenade Launcher, the Cartesian Coordinate Fusion Rifle, or something else that is solar. I would also recommend a good heavy like the Roar of the Bear Rocket Launcher with Demolitionist and Lasting Impression, or the Bait and Switch Cataclysmic. When it comes to the mods in this build, you're going to need to have 3 solar element pieces of armor because we are stacking 3 fire powers to allow us to gain our grenade back even quicker. And if you choose one of the 3 to be your class item, you could also add in Bomber and even Explosive Finisher if you wanted, although that one is a little overkill. The other two mods we have are going to be Elemental Charge as well as Melee Wellmaker, which will allow us to become charged with light when we pick up the solar wells that we will create when we get kills with our throwing hammer. One thing I want to note with this build, if you want to have a lot faster regen on your grenade, I would recommend going for higher discipline stat. When I was making this class and testing it out, I was having a ton of fun just jumping around and being the best support player for my team, while also being able to help out in damage as well. If you are able to get into a nice rhythm with this, you will keep your team alive for so long. You can even take this into raids and store those noble rounds that you get from getting kills with Lumina for just before a damage phase. Then you can start shooting your teammates with them to get them the Blessing of the Sky buff, which will then give them that 35% damage boost. And then you could also do that in the middle of the damage phase if it is a longer one, so you can really put out some big damage. I hope you guys enjoyed this build, and if you did, be sure to let me know down in the comments below. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch the video. If you want to interact with me more, be sure to come check out my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Walzer with 2 R's. Also, if you want more of my content, check out my TikTok. All of these links will be in the description below. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.